Welcome to the Dad Show podcast. How y'all doing? Today is part 4.
And when you turn to him and feel the power, like we were in Cincinnati, Ohio, and even whenever now we go to our treatments in Minneapolis, Minnesota, hundreds of miles away.
Sure.
I can feel the power of prayer at those places.
Man, that's so good. I remember feeling guilty when we were in the hospital because all the nurses wanted Rachel. All the doctors wanted Rachel. Like they would come in, who's got her today? Who's got her today? And everybody knew who her was. Yeah. Because the presence of the Lord was in that room. Amen. And I remember feeling sad because why wasn't it everywhere? Yeah. Why just that room? Yeah. You know, why? And a lot of it was just Rachel and the story she was sharing with anyone that would walk in. But you had doctors sneaking her in things she wasn't supposed to be eating. You had them coming in and serenading her on their day off. All the nurses became her best friends. I mean, a couple of them got tattoos for Rachel. They only knew her for 39 days. Yeah. Like there was the impact that she had because the Lord was in that room, you know. And I look and I thought, man, no one cares who's in 443 or 442. It's like, who's in 444? And we're going to come in here on our days off and we're going to spend time with this person. We're going to be ministered to by this person. And I'm thinking, man, that's so sad. I agree that 443 and 445 don't have that, you know, or aren't feeling that. And
man, that's so good,
dude. But so good. To be able to be able to have a front row seat to just watching that, man, was just so dang cool.
So how did watching that build you up to where you are? I don't want to fast forward, but while we're on this topic, how did watching that whole thing unfold make you the man where you are today?
Man, Rachel, when you lose your person, you know, whether child, spouse, best friend, perspective completely shifts. The things that once mattered so much, you don't lose a ton of sleep over. Yeah. You know, when for 2 years, I mean, we had a break there, but for 2 years, when the only thing you're trying to figure out is how we're going to survive. You know, how, you know, you walk through it, right? Every day, how we're going to survive. What's the right treatment? Who's the doctor we should visit? No amount of money mattered at that point, right? Like you're just going to do whatever you can to make this person live another day. Yeah. Man, you get to the other side of it when maybe it doesn't work, and it's hard to stress about much. Yeah. You know, like when you're like 2 years was focused on just living.
I agree.
It's hard to care about my golf score. Yeah. I just don't care. And it shows. It's bad, you know, but like I don't care about the football game. Yeah. You know, like I used to care a lot about the dang football game. I'm not a Tennessee fan. I went to Mizzou, but anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
Now we're going to kick you out here.
Yeah. But like, I mean, you see it in this community, especially like, man, like people are affected when Tennessee loses. The economy is affected. Like it's a whole thing, right? In any SEC town, like that's how it is. But like, so I don't care. Like I love watching. I'm entertained, but like it's not life or death, man. You know? And nothing is until it is. Yeah. Right? Like, that's true. Nothing is until it is.
That's so huge. That stuff, like you figure out what matters, what truly matters.
That's it, man. And I've done it, bro. I've done it far from perfectly. I have failed over and over. I've failed some people. I've failed some friends. I've failed some business associates. I have failed. But I think I've done it in a loving way. Yeah. You know, I'll admit failure. I'll admit when I suck. I'll admit when I fall. I'll admit when I need to be better. But I can't. It's almost to some in a dating relationship I've had in the past. Like it's like, do you not care about these things? Yeah. Or you don't care enough about certain things. You're right, because it doesn't matter. Yeah. It just doesn't, like it does. None of this matters, right? You know, and
Rachel was already living that. You know, like
that's my thing.
You were
man. Like,
you were on the grind. You were going, and she didn't care about that stuff.
About that stuff, man.
She wanted the presence of her husband and the father
life's
of their
short,
children.
bro. Life is so short.
Yes, it is.
One of her big things, do more of the things you love with the people you love. Do more of the things you love with the people you love.
That's huge.
Because life is so dang short.
Yes.
And you're going to blink and it's going to be over. And now going back to what we talked about earlier, like now I'm in this community of loss, and I know you have a community of every day you're getting connected with a new person that lost somebody.
Yes.
And doesn't think there's light at the end of the tunnel and doesn't think there's joy on the other side, and Rachel assured me there's joy on the other side. Rachel would be so disappointed if I wasn't, living and loving and having fun and all she wanted for us is just to be happy and just to be okay and just to thrive and, not to forget about her. She didn't want to be forgettable and she's not, but she sure just wanted us to be okay. And, we are.
So is that one of the, I guess, the biggest takeaways for you now today with your kids? Like the little stuff that you used to fret over, the dirty room, the laundry not being picked up and everything. Like I assume that's pretty huge in your life right now.
Yeah. And you still get annoyed. You still got to catch yourself, man. Like you talked about, man, I got to be better, but, it'll be fine. The laundry will get done. The clothes will get picked up. Like you gotta have discipline. You gotta have boundaries, which we talked about, right?
Yeah.
But gosh, it's hard because like you can't just live a life where nothing matters.
Yeah.
You gotta pay the bills. You gotta do things, but just to allow those to overtake you or to cause you to react in a way that isn't necessary. For sure, man. Like you walk through something like that. It's just hard to let little things become big things, man.
And it's so, and I'll tell you, bigger than that for me is not wanting to just like shake people and be like, that doesn't matter.
Bro. But we didn't know any different before we walked.
Yeah.
And so like, you got to give all the grace in the world too, because I thought that's all that mattered.
I agree.
I thought that's all but that's why some people might think, well, it looks like you just don't care about things. I care deeply about things, just not that thing.
Exactly.
Because it's just it's not life or death.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And that's huge, like life or death. Like that does not. One of the biggest things with us going through whenever we started with Kennedy was our geneticist at Cincinnati. My wife would hound her. So we had to drive to Cincinnati every week for a 6-hour infusion it was 8 weeks prior to us going into transplant. And that was a man-made enzyme to try and get some of that into her body to help supplement what was coming with the transplant later. So through this, every appointment, we're meeting with people and specialists, and, they're giving us the pros and cons, and you still don't have to make this decision to go through transplant because the mortality rate is so high. And so my wife, every appointment, was hounding this geneticist, like wanting that answer that my daughter's going to be okay, my daughter is going to make it through this transplant, my daughter's going to live. And it's probably the best advice that we ever got in our life was, she said, I can't give you the answer you're looking for. Even if your daughter didn't have what she has, I can't give you the answer you're looking for. But treat her as if she is 100% normal and has no diagnosis, still discipline her, still everything. So I want to ask you, is that one thing that you still do as dad? Like, even though your kids have been through and you've been through the worst of worst, like, do you still do that, or do you give them a lot more grace than what?
Good, man. No, that's a great question. One of the hardest things, and there's a million on the list of things that are hard when you lose your person, but one of the hardest things for me initially, and even today, is having to be bad cop. Rachel was bad cop. She let me be good cop. She let me be the hero. Yeah. She let me be just fun and and overnight I have to be the bad cop. Yeah. And I do have to say, pick up your room. I do have to say, get off the phone. I do have to, that's been hard, for me, because there's days I feel like that's all I am.
Yeah.
I don't even get to be a good cop, right?
Agree,
because there's things that have to be done, and I feel like I'm just no. And so I miss being able to share that with someone
Yeah.
and just having to
Put the bad stuff off on them. Yeah.
man, or just share it at least. Right. And so, but there's gotta be boundaries. There's gotta be that healthy level of respect. And, and I think if I've done anything well, and a lot of it is because Rachel prepared us for this, is that. And the kids are so respectful, and they're so kind, and they love well, and they're so happy. I went to 2 of their teacher conferences. The third one didn't have one last year, and both teachers said, I've never met a happier kid. So, man,
wow,
that feels
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
That feels good, and it's not just happiness, it's joy. Happiness comes and go. Joy comes from him.
Exactly.
It ain't from me, right? Yeah. Like joy comes from him. And that felt so good. To know that they don't get away with stuff. They are disciplined. But in love, in such a loving, the best I know how. No one can do it perfectly. Only he did. But there's just this mutual level of respect between us and me and them that we're doing all right. We're doing okay,
Do you feel like your kids give more grace? Do you feel like your kids have more of that, like what we talked about, like that doesn't matter kind of, from what they've been through? Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I have to be careful with that too, because Hadley was having a hard day at school with some friends. I was like, Daddy, it's so hard. I said, Hadley, that's not hard. Yeah. I said, you've been too hard. Yeah. I said, this, it stinks. It's, it's not fun, but she's like, oh, you're right, Daddy. It's not that hard, and it's like,
but that's a hard too, because you don't want to brush it off.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I have to be careful because that's hard for them. Teenage girl going through things with her friends, right? And so I do. And when I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Are we really, I don't want to say that, but it's like having that conversation. But very few things are really hard. They watch their mommy die.
Yes.
They watch their mommy die. Like, that's hard, And so I for sure think their perspectives are, but you nailed it. I can't be the one to brush things off that matter to them today, losing a football game, whatever it may be to them. It's hard that day, but, I think for sure, to answer your question, I think for sure their perspectives are hopefully, forever different through that loss. Man, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that much.
That's awesome though. That especially the reports you got back from the teachers. And,
man.
That makes you like, we were great parents. We did instill it in them.
And there's the thing, you lose your person. There's always another first, I remember, the first puke without Rachel, that was hard. I remember, first boyfriend, that mommy's supposed to be here to walk through that, shaving the legs for the first time,
I seen that post.
I actually had some smooth legs that day. I did it with Hadley because I'd never done it. She'd never done it. So let's do it together. Daughter's going through periods, dads don't deal with that.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to that at all. It's good. Yeah.
Until like Hadley, I knew it was to happen one day, and I needed Hadley not to think it was weird to talk to me about it. And so we just normalized this conversation around this happening. And, I think dads need to be prepared for some of these things. Mom might not be there, and so
I think you opening that door when Rachel was going through everything and having the hard conversations. And I love this. What I heard on one podcast, and I don't remember exactly which one it was, but whenever the end was coming and you gave the kids the option to either go see mommy or not see mommy during that time, and let them grieve in their own. And I don't exactly remember the words that you said to them, so I don't want to mess it up, but giving them that space to be able to do their own thing and make their own choices of how they want to grieve, with obviously guiding them because you've never been through it. And I know anytime that I've went through something hard, having my kids there by my side made me stronger to go through it. So I'm sure it was hard for a couple of them. I think chose not to go to the hospital and see her anymore. But man, that was so powerful to hear that you gave them the option rather than, no, you need to go because of what's about to happen. Like,
I wanted them to remember mommy for whatever they needed.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't what I needed or what even Rachel needed at that point. It was what they needed.
Yeah.
And again, did we do it perfectly? I don't know, man.
No.
I don't know that we did, but I do remember that, and I'm glad that we gave them the option. And they still talk about that. And you know, one of them wishes she would have gone more.
Yeah.
She wishes she would have gone more, but she said, I just hated the smell.
Yeah.
I hated the smell of the hospital, and I just didn't want to be in. It's great. You know, that's okay.
That's the way Kennedy is. Anytime we walk into, like, even if we're just going to visit a friend or and you know, obviously it's the trigger for her,
sure.
that smell of the hospital and just the hallways and all that. But I think you having those hard conversations earlier on, and then now coming to present day, of making the talks with the daughter about what's about to happen to her body and shaving the legs. And
dude, I had to read all the books and all I had no idea. I mean, I knew Rachel had them and mom had them and everybody has them. Like, we all have, all the women have them, but you know, just to be able to make it not weird, you know, for her, because like, I got to do it with you, man. And it happened on Father's Day. Believe it or not, the gift that keeps on giving, you know. But I remember it how she said, Daddy, like, she was excited to come tell me, like, because we knew that it was getting to that point, and and it could have been really weird for her, and maybe it is. Maybe one day she'll be like, Daddy, that was so weird that I had to do this with you and I had to experience this with you, but we did it. We walked through it and we figured it out, and again, just man, last Friday, Cooper had a state dance competition. And her and her mommy danced, man. Rachel was a pro dancer. That's what she did. She danced in college. She danced after college. Like, that's what she did. And she was so good, so talented. And having to walk through, this is like Cooper's real first competition. Having to walk through that without mom, I know was hard for her. Yeah. And watching her get ready all alone, doing her hair all alone, doing her makeup, doing her eyes, doing all the things alone. I was brought back to like, man, it's not supposed to look like this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, kids are supposed to have their mom. Kids are supposed to have their dad. Parents are supposed to have their kids, you know?
Exactly.
And so there's still those days that just hit, man. Like, dang. Yeah. I'm sorry. We got to do this without Rachel. But
and that. So how do you turn from not getting angry, especially on aspects like that? Because I could see myself just, not flying off the handle, but almost having that thought of, like, why? God, why?
It's not anger, it's just sadness. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be okay some days. And it's also okay to be okay.
Yes.
You can look at both sides of that. But I wasn't okay. That day was hard for me.
Yeah.
And not that I needed Rachel on my side. By my side, I needed Rachel there for Coop, but she was there. She was there in one way, shape, or form. But I just felt bad that then there's been many days I felt bad they didn't have their mommy. Girls need their mommy.
Exactly.
So do boys.
Yeah.
But girls need their mommy, and I can do a lot of good things as a dad, but there's certain things that moms just do better. And I'm not good with hair, I'm not good with makeup, I'm not good with a lot of things, and so it's sadness, not anger anymore.
Yeah.
It's just sad, and I think that'll always be the case. If it doesn't sting, I hope when I die it stings a little bit for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I always say,
not just
that.
initially.
No, I mean, Rachel deserves the sting.
Yeah.
Our people deserve the sting, and I hope it better sting forever.
Yeah.
She deserves that. Not all the time, because again, it's okay to be okay, and all she wanted was for us to be okay. But there's days it stings for sure.
I agree. Whenever you get down or you have bad days, obviously you have to be the rock for your kids. How do you cope with those bad days? How do you continue to deal with them?
Yeah, man. I don't even know that I don't know that I have bad days anymore. I have my bad moments. My closet's my hiding space that I go and I cry still sometimes. I found therapy through writing. So I'll write. Like, that's where I feel like I can release the things I need to release. But to your point, I'm also navigating through other people's days, and their hard and their struggle and their, missing mommy or whatever it may be. And so I remember, it was probably a year of just navigating everybody else's till I got to navigate mine. You know, like
I
remember just sitting with everyone else's space and just, I remember one day just falling on my closet floor because I finally felt like I got to just
let it go,
man. You know, but also like we grieved Rachel. Rachel and I grieved losing her for months. You know, we got to grieve it and cry it out. And it's interesting because like when she died, like, not that I was immediately okay, but I was okay.
Yeah.
Because like I was given permission to be okay by Rach. And I remember some people thinking, man, he's okay too quick. I'm like, no, there's no too quick, you know, there's no, and you don't know what all's going on, you know, like there's a lot of hurt and a lot of heart and a lot of, but also like I had to put on a face too for my kids, and we had to do life, man.
And that's a big story too. Like you say that people looked from the outside seeing that, oh, he's okay. Like you never know what somebody's going through, man. That's why whenever I walk down the street, if I'm in a mall, like anybody I pass, I try to make eye contact with them. Like, hey, how you doing? Or, hey buddy, or, you know, make some kind of comment to let somebody know that they have my full face, you know, just like what you said earlier. Like
there's no blueprint to grief, man. There's no blueprint to, timeline, you know, like, and like I said, you're never going to be like, there's always going to be this hole. There's always going to be this gap. There's always going to be a piece missing in these kids' lives and in my life and our friends' lives. But again, like I can't imagine a person that passes on not wanting their people to be okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got permission to be, and I'm so grateful for that. You know, like you know, one of the last few nights Rachel was really with it, we got to have a final date in the hospital. And she had written in her phone, you know, 8 things that she wanted from me, that she wanted to discuss with me, you know, before she died.
Thank you for coming to watch part 4, and come back tomorrow for part 5. Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.